the way this whole journey started with my life and the Lord bringing me from darkness to light. I wasn't raised in a non-Christian home. It was a Christian home with shaky foundations. The gospel was not clearly understood, and there was a lot of superstition and stuff bound up with the faith movement. And my parents are sweet, lovely people, and the Lord has brought them a long, long way. But during my childhood, there was definitely quite a bit of confusion. And a lot of the theology they had was so wrong and just crazy. And I used that as an excuse to reject it, to reject Christianity. I didn't outright just think, I reject Christianity. I just, the thought crossed my mind a few times, this is silly. I got better things to do. And I remember I was probably 12 or 13 when, we had moved from Kansas to Denver. We originally I grew up in Ottawa and Lawrence, Kansas till I was about 8 or 9, and then we moved to Denver. And then when I was about 12 or 13, started hanging out with the neighbor kids and skateboarding, and, started getting into, messing around with smoking cigarettes and eventually smoking some weed and, trying out alcohol and just all around getting into trouble. And where it really started to get worse was when I begged my parents to send me to public school. They wanted to homeschool me. They should have also not probably let me hang out with the neighbor kids, but they eventually gave in because I was so persistent, and I ended up going to Columbine High School. I went the semester, I was supposed to go the semester of the shooting and was supposed to be in school that day, but I was with my dad. I don't remember everything in that whole time period really well, but I know I was working with my dad the day the shooting happened, and I went to school the semester after the shooting. And quickly, I remember the first day of class, I went out on my lunch break and all the skateboard kids were smoking weed, and so I started smoking weed pretty regularly. And I just fully started rejecting authority, didn't care about what my teachers said or my parents or anybody. I just wanted to skateboard and live life, and got into some trouble, had a girlfriend that was also in a very lost way of life. And my parents, seeing that things were going very bad with me and with my sister Katie, they decided that changing the environment would be the way to go. And so they moved back to Kansas and tried to make us go with them. And my sisters did, but I ran away and refused to, and ended up living with my friend Christian Delatorre in his parents' basement. And those months where I was away from my family were very dark and lonely, and I don't know, the Lord was working in my heart, just showing me a little bit of the importance of family, and I was also hungry and poor, and working at a skateboard shop doesn't pay very good, and I was blowing my money on stupid stuff, mainly skateboards and shoes and marijuana and whatever food I could afford. But my dad called one day. I got really sick, and I eventually called my grandma, and she took me to the hospital, and I had shingles when I was 18 or 19, which is so crazy. And then my dad called, he got my number, and offered me a job framing houses with him in Kansas, and he said he'd pay me really good. And my dad was a builder. And so I went down there, decided to do that, moved to Kansas, and fell in with the same kind of crowd. I mean, they were different. They were more just kind of, instead of skateboarders, they were more like basketball thugs. I don't know how to describe it, but similar crowd. And of course, I was right there with them. I was one of them. No different at all. But the church that my parents were part of, and even some friends from, my younger days before we left Kansas, were praying for me, and some of them were even trying to talk to me. And I don't exactly remember a perfect timeline of events, but after several years in Kansas, David Taylor and a few others were praying for me. They had talked to me a couple times. And I was a friend with David when I was little. I remember, spending the night at his house or going over there for Bible studies. And I remember him anyway, I remember being part of the co-op and stuff like that. But he had been praying for me, and I had started to think about things. I was up to no good. Just like back in Denver, I didn't even mention half of the bad stuff that I did back there. We had made up, we'd even made fake coupons when we were kids in Denver, and I would go door to door with my friends and sell fake coupons to restaurants. I'd say, "Hi, my name is Chris. I'm with the FBLA. Do you know what that stands for? That's the Future Business Leaders of America, and I'm out here selling these coupons to earn money for my college education. Would you like to help me go to school?" Anyway, so we were up to no good, and I continued that kind of stuff at the gas station. One of the jobs I worked at was I worked a night shift at a gas station, make extra money, and I sold alcohol after hours out the back. I didn't steal it, but I sold it and doubled the price and was doing all kinds of things to make extra money. But I started to feel some conviction or shame or something from these Christian people talking to me. And I started to hang out with some of them, just was kind of curious. Hung out with David a few times and followed around some people at the youth group. And like I said, the timeline is kind of cloudy, but I do remember this. My old girlfriend from Colorado followed me out to Kansas, but then cheated on me. And what's weird is I didn't really... Sadly, she had cheated on me before, and I didn't care about her that much, I didn't think. Like, I never hung out with her. I never saw her, hardly. But I came back to my apartment one time, and there was another guy there. And all of a sudden, I got really ticked. I don't know why, but I did. I got jealous all of a sudden, and I tried to fight him. Guy's name was Mike Galtney. Hilarious. Later, we kind of became friends, which is funny, but... Anyway, I fought him, totally way bigger than me. It didn't go very good. And then the police showed up, and the police just told me to leave. And as soon as the police left, though, I came back and rang the doorbell again and fought him again. And this time I kind of choked him with his necklace and did a little better. But then the police came again. And I was really sad. And in the police car, my heart started to break about my life. And I mean, obviously... I guess not everybody that rides in a police car and is headed to jail cares that much, but it shook me up. And I'd never been to jail or, in trouble like that. So I'd done things that I should have gone to jail for, but I hadn't. And I don't remember exactly how, but I had David Taylor's phone number, but I had a whole ton of other friends. And when I was in jail... They locked me in there, and it's a bad process. They scan your eyes, take pictures of your tattoos, and strip you down and check you in. And I actually had enough money to pay my bail, but it finds out you actually can't pay your own bail. And so that was a surprise. And they let you have one phone call, of course. And I called, this is so funny, lots of my friends, and all it said was, this number has been disconnected or something. And I looked over at the police officers at the counter and I was like, are you guys messing with me? Like, this is so weird. But then I called David and he actually answered. And it was like 4 a.m. or something crazy. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but I remember him saying he was up praying, which was so crazy. Anyway, he like came and got me and bailed me out. And the details are a little cloudy, but I remember him sharing the gospel and explaining a lot of things about Jesus and turning from your sin and freedom from addiction. And I remember that night I stayed at his house and I stuffed my cigarettes underneath his couch. And I never smoked again, which was pretty funny. So the Lord did deliver me from that, and I didn't smoke weed again or any of that stuff. And David, the Lord used him a lot, and he said, maybe you should just get rid of your phone and your friends and just live with me for a while. And I don't remember how long it was, but I stayed with him for quite a while and even got a job working with him. And the Lord used that time a lot to just solidify my identity in Christ, and that he freed me from sin and the love of this world, and it's not like the battle was over. It just begun, but it was an amazing step, and the Lord really used that time with David and changed, who I am. And the Lord kept moving in both of our lives. A lot happened. Started reading the Bible. We'd get up and read every morning and listen to worship music, and then go to work, and it was a lot of fun. And then eventually we both met women and got married, and the Lord was merciful and gave us both amazing, God-fearing wives, which we don't deserve. And I remember him and his wife came and said one day, a few years into their marriage, and said they felt they were called to go to Turkey and be missionaries. And my wife and I was studying theology at the university, and she was studying missions, and we wanted to go to somewhere too. We weren't sure where. We thought a Muslim country, but we weren't sure where. And amazingly, God in his providence used this whole relationship with David, and we ended up going to Turkey and studying in Istanbul for a year and a half, studying Turkish, and then moving to Antalya and being part of a beautiful church there while we finished up our Turkish. And then for the last 2.5 years, been with David and Monica in Fethiye, Turkey. And it has been a privilege to serve there and to be part of all of that. But what's really also beautiful is to see how the Lord has used his people and used the relationships that he has founded to build his kingdom, to glorify his name. And yeah, so in a nutshell, that's a little story of my testimony about how the Lord really changed my heart completely and brought me from darkness to light. It was a radical change. There were periods, that I shorten the story a lot. There were time periods of huge growth throughout that time that were pivotal. I remember a friend of ours, Micah Slankard. So many people in America, by God's grace, have this same exact story. But Micah Slankard sent David this sermon by Paul Washer. It was in like 2003 or something when we heard it. Maybe probably 2003, I think. And we listened to it, and then we were like, what? And then we listened to it again, like instantly, and we were like, wait a second, no way. I think we listened to it 3 times in a row. And we were just like, whoa, mind is blown right now. Wait a second. God, like, actually really changes you, and it's a mark of being born again. And that was pivotal. That, looking forward, that set a trajectory for the theology we would inherit, which I believe is the theology of the Bible, and eventually led us to Reformed theology, although it was a bumpy road and a lot of hiccups and being in the cage stage for a while and wanting to fight people about it, and the Lord maturing me, and even fighting David about it for a while, and the Lord bringing both of us back together and uniting us in His Word was an amazing thing. And so basically, I'm just a testimony of His grace. There has been nothing that I did. My friend Christian Delatorre right now, he's lost in his sin. And I could be there, right there with him. So, if anyone listens to this and thinks that somehow I did anything or am a great person, you're misunderstanding the message. It's all about the Lord and what He's done. And really, there's a lot of weakness and sin still in my life. And it's all my fault. But if there's grace and goodness and anything that reflects Christ, it's Him. It's Him that did it. And from my own perspective, I can see how far He's brought me from that state. But I can still see how broken I am and how much I need Him and His gospel. And I really long to be glorified. And that time probably will be soon.